Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. I'm here with my fantastic co host, Gabriel Pickup, and we have a great show for you today. First, we're going to talk about updates in recruiting with our pick updates, and then we're going to preview the running back room for 2025. Gabe, let's start with you. What do you got for us?
Yeah, how's everyone doing at home? Make sure you like and subscribe, leave any comments, and if you have anything wise to say or funny or smart aleck, feel free to join the show. With that being said, I will start this rendition of pick updates. So it is the fifth rendition, at least according to my numbers here. And the first one, big news. And I kind of hinted that this could be news earlier on in the week, but Tavion Branch, defensive tackle, commits to Rutgers University, class of 2026. He's a 3.5 star because it depends on the site between 3 and 4. He's from Taylor, Pennsylvania, 16th overall Pennsylvania prospect per 24/7 Sports. And I mentioned the stacked lineup that we were included in. He chose us over Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Boston College. So that is elite company to rank ahead of in terms of recruitment. He went to Riverside High School, 6'3", 300 pounds. So he is a beast. 65 tackles in last year, 2024, 25 for loss. And as a defensive tackle, 10.5 sacks. Super impressive numbers. He was recruited primarily by DN's coach, Julian Campenny. So I'm super excited to have him. And yeah, so much for that kid. I'm going to get into that in a second, Jason. Yeah, that's going to be the next topic. But I wanted to start off with the positive,
Yeah, Jason, welcome to the show. Thanks for the comments. We'll get to that in a second. But I gotta make one comment here. So we have somebody who was recruited by the University of Georgia, Auburn, who selected Rutgers. Now we have a second recruit, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oklahoma State.
Notre Dame.
Rutgers. Something's good's going on at Rutgers with Coach Schiano and his staff. Very, very pleased with this development. We're starting to compete with the big boys, and that means we're going to compete in the Big Ten.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like we were talking about Jared Smith and how he was probably the biggest recruit in recent Rutgers history. I have a feeling that Tavion Branch is definitely up there in that Mount Rushmore of recent recruits.
Well, welcome to Rutgers, Tavion Branch. Hopefully can have an immediate impact, especially for a defense that's got lots of transfers this year. Good players. Hopefully they can develop into a cohesive unit to improve that defense and ultimately bring the Scarlet Knights to victory against those teams that they lost to last year. Future's looking bright, Gabe. What else you got?
It's looking very bright. We're ranked number 10 in the nation in recruiting, number 33 overall. So let's keep that trajectory going. And with that being said, we do have to bring up the elephant in the room, the unfortunate news. Like Jason, you said, that kid from Adam Shaw, 2026 linebacker commit. He decommits 10 days after committing. Committed on June 1st, decommitted June 11th. He has since visited Pitt and Michigan State, with experts predicting that he'll commit to being a Spartan. Schiano may or may not allow commits to visit other schools. It's a pretty self-explanatory rule if true, but it's just word on the street. And my reaction to it is cool. Good luck. I feel like we don't really need to waste too much time talking about this young man. Plenty of bright spots to look forward to.
Hold on a second. I'm going to waste a little time here. All right, come on.
Energy positive.
This is ridiculous. All right.
Who cares?
Where did Adam Shaw go to high school?
I say who cares? We're top 10 in recruiting. We're number 33 overall.
Did he go to high school in Pascack Valley, New Jersey?
The future hasn't been this bright since silly bands were in style.
Don't start with the idealism. This bum goes to Pascack Valley High School, is a New Jersey native, commits to Rutgers, and then 11 days later, he's gone.
So get him out of here. Who cares?
What values does this kid have? What kind of commitment does he have? We want players who buy into the Rutgers culture, who have old school values. This is BS. Yeah. I wish Adam Shaw no good. I hope he goes to Michigan State and sits on the bench. And it's about time that you start holding these people accountable.
I don't have to hold him accountable because he's not our problem.
I think it's a disgrace. You commit and you decommit 11 days later.
So let me ask you this. You decommit from somewhere 11 days later. Would you rather that, or would you rather him decommit right before the season starts?
I would rather we not have recruited him in the first place, because obviously they did not see the intangibles about this kid, okay? Meaning his judgment, his maturity, and his obvious sense of entitlement. I don't want anybody who's going to commit and then decommit 11 days later. Now, Jason O does say that they upgraded with Tanner Raymond. That's a good point, Jason O. And Shaw's parents were both athletes at Michigan State. Well, you know what? Go to Sparty. Because go to Sparty where you're 4-6. But don't commit to Rutgers and waste our time. You're too soft on these people, Gabe. You're creating a weak entitled culture.
You know what? I think that you want to know what I think happened? I think this happened. Adam Shaw commits to Rutgers, tells his parents. His parents go, "Oh boy, honey, that's great and all, but I really wish you continued on at Michigan State. I mean, we both went there. Your sister went there, your brother, whoever. We want you to go there, and we want your kids' to go there." I bet you something like that happened. He started feeling bad. Again, that's all speculation, nothing confirmed. But if there's a family legacy at Michigan State, I bet you Adam went with his heart, and then his brain started saying, "Hey, man, follow your family, follow your family."
Well, I want to give parents around the United States a lesson, okay? You encourage your kids to follow their dreams, not to follow yours. 100%. And that's all I have to say about that. But I'm very disappointed that you allowed him, hold him accountable. You're so accommodating of these kids, and this is what's breeding a culture in our youth of not being accountable.
All right, old man. All right.
Go on.
Thank you. We'll save that for another day. But I do think that it's not about not holding him accountable. It's about him not being our problem anymore. And he doesn't fit the culture, so be it. I think we can move on, and we'll be just fine without him. He'll be just fine without us, and it's a two-way street. He'll go one way, we'll go the other. That's my opinion.
Well, it's a positive way to look at it. I can't blame you for that. So,
I mean, I'm not saying it's all bright and dandy, but I am saying that there's nothing we can do about it. Why dwell on it when we have something good going?
Well, I think part of the problem is that you're right now vacationing in Florida, and the effects of Florida are clouding your judgment a bit. I'm just saying. I call it like it is.
I was out in the sun a lot today and yesterday.
Next thing you know, you're going to go to Publix and see DJ Lagway. Who knows how you'll turn out after that? Any other updates for us?
Yeah, funny actually. I was playing pickleball 2 days. This isn't even an update. This is just something funny. I was playing pickleball 2 days ago with Mike Schmidt's old roommate in college.
Wow.
Yeah, we were just casually playing, and I mentioned I was a sports media major. He goes, I roomed with Mike Schmidt in college. I'm like, dude, that's freaking huge. Anyways, yeah.
What I would have told him? I would have said, you roomed with Mike Schmidt in college, right?
Yeah.
But you ain't Mike Schmidt. That's the problem.
He's the Mike Schmidt of pickleball. If
your fame comes by association, hey, you got issues. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Ignacio, don't gas him up, because he'll be more ego than man by the end.
Ignacio, thank you for bringing reason to this conversation, because Gabe decided to get toxic with this Adam Shaw thing. Now I'm all in a bad mood. You had to bring it up. Yeah, I told you. No, you brought it up anyway.
Whatever you say, Adam, Jello, Spello, Lamparello, Linguini.
Anything you'd like.
Ravens hot. Okay, you know what? I came into this with the wrong tone. Let me start over. The Ravens hire Rutgers Director of Recruiting Ramon Ruiz as player personnel assistant. Man, this guy is one of the huge reasons for our turnaround. And Adam, if you can remind the viewers at home how drastically we've improved our recruitment since he took over in 2022.
Oh, there's no question. You're absolutely right. The recruitment has improved tremendously. We're starting to get players, and I've said this on repeated shows, we need to get the 4 stars, get a few 5 stars, because then it creates a domino effect where people say going to Rutgers for the development, for the NFL prospects, for the education, it's going to be beneficial. We've made inroads in North Carolina. We are starting to make inroads in Georgia. We have certainly made solid inroads in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have also made inroads in Florida.
Yep.
Okay, so Rutgers is becoming a national brand. When I went to high school at Bergen Catholic, from 89 to 93, Rutgers was, the place you went to if the big schools didn't want you. Now, it's the place where you go to even if the big schools want you. So I got to give credit to Coach Schiano and his staff, and look forward to what's going to be a very interesting season.
Yeah, and Ignacio, I believe that is still the interim AD. I don't, unless it went completely over my head. There's not been an official announcement for the new Rutgers AD.
Interim AD Jimmy Gill.
Yeah, who may or may not be helping pull some strings for getting some other guests on the show. But that's for a future.
Don't be mysterious about it. Greg Schiano, we want you on the show. We are the biggest supporters of you in Rutgers football. Come on the show. Come on with Ethan. Let's talk about Rutgers football, the future, and what you see as the three biggest things that are going to help Rutgers get over the hump this year to become a contender, not just in the Big Ten, but for the playoff. Coach, we're waiting for you.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, with that sad piece of news, I want to talk about what Jason pointed out earlier, which is the fact that we got a replacement within several hours. Tanner Raymond has joined the squad. And guess what? Adam, a new state has entered the arena. He went to school in Wallingford, Connecticut. 3-star prospect, 60th ranked linebacker. On paper doesn't sound great, but if you think about there being 134 schools, that means that he's an average starting linebacker. 4th ranked Connecticut prospect overall. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. Now, the kid is a genius. You want to know why? Because the schools that he picked us over were JMU, Bucknell, and Columbia.
Let me tell you something. Bucknell doesn't have a football team. Neither does Columbia. I guess they do have a football team, but I've never seen it. Now, as far as James Madison, we've got some great transfers coming in from James Madison, so that's a legitimate program. And it seems that this player is academically minded. Always good to have someone with a high IQ, a high football IQ. But the question is, do they have the talent to contribute? Jury's out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just we're going to have to wait and see. But when you think about the schools that he was offered, and like you said, some of them don't even have football programs, that's really telling for, can they read a playbook? Can they think on the go? The kid's super intelligent. I'm excited to have him. And last but not least, when it comes to these...
Hold on one second.
Sure.
As far as Columbia goes, apparently at Columbia, I don't know about their football team, but they sure know how to protest.
That they do.
I'll leave it there.
That they do. See, you were telling me not to be mysterious, and now you're being mysterious. But you know what? I think it's better to be mysterious in this instance.
A philosopher once said, courageous men are hypocrites.
All right.
So,
last piece of news here for the Pick Updates Edition 5. NFL Scarlet Knights alumni news. Kyle Monangai, who was drafted in the 7th round by the Bears, he's apparently been shining in camp, and the Bears are leaning towards having him as a primary second option. Wow, that's contradictory. As the primary backup, should I say, running back. His speed and shiftiness was an issue, but that's no longer the case per Chicago Bears insider Ben Devine, which is a fantastic name in its own right.
Look, I have nothing but praise for Kyle Monangai. The way that he was used last year, the workload that he had to carry, the physicality that he brought, the speed that he brought, the vision that he brought to the field. He was a special player, and he's not the biggest, may not be the fastest, but he's got those intangibles, and I think he's going to be a productive NFL player, and I couldn't be happier for Kyle Monangai. Congratulations, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations, Kyle. You've continuously proved people wrong. You had to carry this program on your back on the offensive side, and then people say, are you going to get drafted, let alone, or are you going to be a UDFA with an impact in training camp, let alone be drafted? You get drafted in the 7th round. People say you're too short. People say you're not shifty enough. You're not versatile on offense. And then you come into training camp and you set an example that you're here to work hard and that the dream is in front of you and the only one stopping you is you. And you are correct. You are proving that correct. It's only a matter of time until you get a guaranteed contract. And I'm excited to watch you on the Bears this year. Even if it means I got to root against you 1 or 2 games, I'm still excited. And I'll be rooting for you as an individual every time you get the ball.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And we have Jason O, who says, Schiano played at Bucknell, and look, Bucknell's a very good school. I'm sure it has, a good football program. But again, my question always is the players that we're getting, the coaches that we're getting, are they going to be able to compete against the Ohio States, against the Michigans, the Oregons, the Penn States? I'm all for development, but do they have the innate talent and the intangibles? And sometimes I think some of the recruits we get are either going to take a lot of time to develop or not develop at all. But that's that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. Bucknell. See, the thing with the Ivy League schools and just the academic schools in general is they used to have a lot bigger of a reputation when it came to the college sports, just because athletically a lot of the programs weren't as developed.
Right.
But now you really do see the difference when it comes to an academic school versus an athletic school, which is unfortunate for the historical aspect. But I mean, it's a reality, and I'm not saying that this kid. That Tanner Raymond is going to be bad. I think he'll, like I said, his IQ is a strength. It's just, will it transfer onto the field? And that's to be seen.
Well, I'll tell you something. You and I should take a trip to East Lansing, Michigan this fall. Find Adam Shaw and give him a slap. Say, how dare you do that?
No, none of that. No.
Hey, Adam, I'm watching you because you have my same name, so I take personal offense to this. All right. Anyway,
look at you harassing 18-year-old kids.
I don't like the implication of that, and I'm going to edit that out of this show. But go on.
I said 18-year-old. All right. But yeah, so that's actually the last bit of the pick updates for episode 5. I look forward to next week. Hopefully, it's all positive news, but most of it was, and I'm going to keep bringing it to you every week.
All right. Well, Gabe, always with fantastic updates each week on recruiting and developments for Rutgers football. Thanks so much for that, Gabe. I appreciate it, and so does the audience. And if you all liking the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Always enjoy seeing you and hearing your comments and taking your calls. Gabe, I'd like to turn to our second segment for tonight. And, you were just mentioning Kyle Monangai and all the contributions that he made to Rutgers football, the university, and hopefully now in the NFL. Well, that brings us to the topic of the running backs for 2025. Now that we've lost Monangai, we got 3 running backs contending for the starting position. C.J. Campbell, a transfer from Florida International University, and returning players Antoine Raymond and Jashawn Benjamin. So those are the top 3 in the running back room. And I'd like to start this discussion off with just a general question for you. How do you see the running back room playing out, and who's going to get the playing time, and how good are we going to be?
Yeah, it's interesting because Our Lads, which has every depth chart in college football, actually has C.J. Campbell starting over Antoine Raymond. But all of the fans really think this is going to be a breakout year for Raymond. And I can see it happening. I think he was almost Monangai-esque last year when he was playing. So I really think it's a 2-man race for the running back 1 position, but they're deep enough, especially because they have Samuel Brown, the 5th too, and then, like you said, Jashawn Benjamin, to where they could play a 3 RB set, sort of like the Buccaneers did last year because they weren't expecting the surging performances of Bucky Irving, and then they had awkward situations elsewhere. Well, if you're Jashawn Benjamin and you're Samuel Brown, you're saying, how do I make this an awkward situation? How do I get myself to be good when my peers are not being good? And obviously you root for a team success, but the answer to that is if one of these guys gets injured, Jashawn Benjamin especially can be plugged in and kind of play sort of Raymond-esque. So it gets passed down from Monangai-esque to Raymond-esque, and now Jashawn Benjamin could definitely be thrown into the rotation. But as of now, and that's with respect to Samuel Brown, because he's been here 3 years onto his 4th year, never transferred despite low snap counts, so respect to you. But with as of now, it's really a 2-man race when healthy.
All right, well, that's a great analysis. So I want to just dive a little deeper here and look at some of the statistics here from these 3 running backs. So we start out with C.J. Campbell, Florida International University transfer. 2024, 165 carries for 844 yards, 11 touchdowns, and a 5.1 yards per carry average. Let's look at some
Beautiful.
of the highlights from the season. Against Tulsa, 15 carries for 100 yards, 6.7 average, with a long of 58 yards. Against a stingy South Florida defense, 12 carries, 90 yards for a 7.5 average with 2 touchdowns and a long of 30. And against a weaker Charlotte team, 21 carries, 150 yards for a 7.1 average, a touchdown, and a long of 58. Now let's look at Raymond. Raymond didn't have the same amount of carries or playing time, but he was still impressive with 100 carries, 457 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a 4.6 average. And 2 games from Antoine Raymond really stand out. Kansas State, 18 carries, 113 yards in the Rate Bowl, 6.3 average, 3 touchdowns, a long of 65.
Woo!
Michigan State, where Adam Shaw is going. And Adam, I don't want to hear from you again. I'm just saying, you're the one who brought it up. But anyway, let's digress. Michigan State, Antoine Raymond, 9 carries, 71 yards, 7.9 yards per carry average, and 2 touchdowns. That's nothing to sneeze at. And you brought up Jashawn Benjamin. Let's talk about Jashawn Benjamin. Still lesser carries, but still impressive potential. 19 carries, 100 yards last season with 1 touchdown and a 5.3 yards per carry average. In the Rate Bowl against Kansas State, 7 carries for 33 yards and a 4.7 average per carry with 1 touchdown. And Minnesota against PJ Fleck and the Minnesota Golden Gophers, 11 carries, 66 yards for 6.0 yards per carry average. So I'm not so sure who's going to start because all 3 of these running backs have shown potential for greatness.
Yeah.
So, Gabe, how do you think Shiano's going to make this decision, and who do you think we're going to see out there starting the first game?
How I honestly view it is it's going to be a 2 running back set. I don't know. I mean, on paper, maybe CJ will be the starter or Raymond will be the starter. But between both of them, it's going to be very 50-50 based on the situation. Just some examples off the top of my head. Sean Green, LaDainian Tomlinson, Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs, that kind of thing. Where Raymond, if you look at his passing or his receiving statistics, he only had 3 catches for 44 yards versus CJ Campbell had 40 receptions for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. And also another impressive statistic with Campbell is in 165 attempts, he did not have a single fumble. So my take is Raymond's going to be the power back. He's going to be the 1st and 10 guy if it's early in the game or you're up. He's going to be the 3rd and 3 guy if you know you have 2 possessions to play with. He's going to for sure be the 4th and 1 guy. But CJ is going to be the finesse guy, the 3rd down running back, the check down option. So it really comes down to scheming and situation. I think they're going to play both of them. If I had to guess between CJ and Raymond, which one would technically be the starter, I guess I'd say CJ because he does a little more for the offense. But I think it's going to be as damn close to 50-50 as it can get.
Okay, that's a great point. One of the questions I have, and maybe you can help me with this, is can any of these running backs catch passes out of the backfield? Because when I think of them, I don't think of them just running the ball, but can we have them, be good receivers and, add to what should be a dynamic offense? Do any of the 3, kind of jump out to you as being potentially good receivers out of the backfield?
Yeah, absolutely. So I said CJ, right? He had 40 receptions last year, 466 yards. So that's not just catching it out of the backfield. That's running routes because he had 11.5 or 11.7 yards per reception and 3 touchdowns. So he can run routes if needed. And, Raymond, like I said, 3 catches in 10 games when you have 100 attempts rushing is not good. So he's not going to be getting the ball in terms of via the throw from Kaliakmanis. When you look at Benjamin, it's interesting because he only has 7 catches in his collegiate career in 13 games, but he also only has 64 rushing attempts. So you can almost say the sample size isn't big enough for him, but the fact that he's getting some catches is good. But Samuel Brown, he only has 7 in his career, and he has 189 attempts, so he is not going to be getting. Samuel Brown and Raymond are going to be purely rushing and blocking. Benjamin maybe here and there, but CJ Campbell will. He reminds me of Darren Sproles. I mean, that's really how I see him, as sort of being the Darren Sproles of this offense, and then Raymond sort of being the Jay Ajayi, that kind of guy.
Great analogies. I like it. Another Sproles. Sproles was from Kansas State, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, very dynamic running back.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of some great backfields. Him and McCoy, him and Ajayi, him and Reggie Bush, who thankfully got his Heisman back.
He went to my alma mater, University of Southern California. We love you, Reggie. I met Reggie in New Orleans once. I told him what a great running back he was. He shook my hand and said, "Thanks a lot, man." And my night was made.
And you haven't washed your hands since?
Absolutely not. But I would have washed my hands and my face after you mentioned Adam Shaw tonight. You had to ruin it, didn't you?
You've said his name 4 times since.
I'm just saying, you started it. But anyway, let's get to a question.
Don't blame the messenger.
I have a really important question that maybe you can answer, because I haven't been able to answer it when I think about it. So on the positive side, you can say, look, we have 3 great running backs. This could almost be running back by committee, where each running back has the potential, to gain 4 or 5 yards per carry, break a long run, as we've seen. And what that means is in the fourth quarter, the running backs are all going to be fresh if we distribute the carries. The negative side to it is that I'm sure each of the running backs wants to get most of the carries. They don't want to share. They don't want to be running back by committee, and they're not going to be happy if each of them is getting 7 or 8 carries a game. So how does Coach Schiano navigate that situation so that he can maximize the success of the running backs without alienating them or, losing, their trust or loyalty to Rutgers football?
Well, I think the only guy who has honestly done enough to deserve being frustrated would be Samuel Brown V, because he's had to play behind Monangai for 3 years here, and he's only gotten 189 attempts in 24 games. So that's about 7 or 8. Maybe, I think 8. It's about 8 or 9. I keep pushing the number up because mathematics was not my degree, but he's the only guy that really deserves to be frustrated with the low snap count, and he's been a trooper so far. But CJ is a redshirt senior. He's going to get snaps. Raymond is 100% going to get snaps. I think they should be fine sharing the backfield for this year, specifically because neither of them is going to ride the bench. It's going to be 2 plays up, you're in, 2 plays up, you're in, and they're going to get their highlights. And also, if one of them goes down, unfortunate for the team, but the other guy would get all of a sudden from 50% of the counts to 80%, 85%. And Jayshawn Benjamin, I think that he can ride out another year being a bench guy for a good portion of the year, obviously getting his share when either it's a blowout or there's an injury, because he's an important running back. If he gets injured, this running back core diminishes. But in terms of the morale, he's only going to be a junior, and him and Antoine Raymond will share the backfield in 2026. And that's going to be a good year for the running backs too, because they're both good running backs. We have a good offensive line. So if I'm those 3 guys, CJ Campbell, Antoine Raymond, Jayshawn Benjamin, your morale has got to be sky high, because either your stock is going to improve this year or you're set up to where it will improve. Samuel Brown, I am so happy that you are being a trooper about your situation, because it has been tough, but you have an NFL running back that you've been back up to for 3 years now. Who knows where Raymond or CJ could be? It could be 4. But he's really the only guy, in my opinion, that if he's frustrated, I understand.
All right. Well, I'll offer a slightly different perspective. Let's get realistic. All right. These running backs are on the sidelines. Each one of them probably thinks they're better than the other. They want playing time. With these young people, we live in an era of instant gratification where perseverance, overcoming adversity, and learning from failure seems like an old wives' tale, even though it shouldn't. But my point is this. What is the chance there's going to be discontent where CJ Campbell's going to say, this is BS. was the star at FIU. I don't want to come out and have Antoine Raymond get, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 carries. And Raymond saying, I don't want CJ to be getting the majority of the carries. I mean, there is like some internal political dynamic that
Sure.
can affect the cohesiveness of that. So how does Greg Schiano make sure all of those players are satisfied so that Rutgers can maximize its chances of success?
So again, I don't think it will happen, but if it does happen, Schiano needs to remind these players of what he pitched to them when he brought them here. Because with Raymond, he said, you're going to be stuck behind an NFL running back for 2 years. Benjamin, same thing. CJ Campbell, we bring you in. Now, you're technically Monangai's replacement, but look, you're not Monangai, at least not yet. You have to prove it. And with Raymond and Benjamin, like these are two guys who can be great players on the field this year, and they could have been in years previous. So if you're Campbell, you look at the roster, you look at what Coach Schiano is telling you and other recruits, and that's sort of the pitch that Schiano gives to a guy when he's upset, because there will be some times where running backs are upset. But it's based on the fact that you were brought in here for the system. There's no like Saquon, there's no Monangai, there's no Derrick Henry or something like that when it comes to college. There's no Ezekiel Elliott. I almost said Ezekiel Elephant. But there's no the system's not based on the running back. It's based on running, but it's not based on the running back. So that's sort of what you have to pitch to the guy when they're upset.
All right, so that's a great answer. And so I guess my final question to wrap up the discussion about the running backs, and what I'll say is I think that it's going to be, I tend to agree with you, it's going to be CJ Campbell and Antoine Raymond sharing the carries with slight advantage to CJ Campbell, but I think Jashawn Benjamin will be used situationally and effectively, particularly in third down situations, even fourth and short situations. So my final question for you is this. When you look at the running back performance from last year, obviously Kyle Monangai, shouldered the overwhelming number of carries and did a fantastic job. When you look at the quality of our running game last year, with one running back basically being, the face of the running of our running attack, and you look at this year where we have three capable and serviceable backs, how do you compare the quality of the running back performance from last year to what it can be this year?
Yeah, that's sort of a good question because
Sort of. It is a good question.
all right, man, whatever. With CJ Campbell Jr., who I keep forgetting the junior because you already have the CJ and then you have to throw in the JR. It's like a double lettering up name. But with CJ Campbell Jr., you have to see him progress before you can say that he'll be not even as good as Monangai, but like close enough to where we can say we're at the same level. I have the utmost confidence in our offensive line, but losing Holland Pierce kind of sucks because he's one of the best offensive linemen that we've had in recent history. But with that being said, I mean, does Raymond getting older by a year, being in the system for another year, and same thing with Benjamin, does that outweigh, and plus with CJ Campbell coming in, does that outweigh losing Monangai? I don't think so, especially because we're going to be passing the ball more this year, even if it's not our main attack. That is going to be happening a lot more this year with the senior Ethan Kaliakmanis bringing in DT, and then, Strong and Duff developing, and Black being a sophomore now. So I don't think the running is going to be as impressive this year, but I think it'll be enough to where we can have still a formidable offense and hopefully be a little more consistent.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And when you talk about running back styles, as they say, styles make fights. Well, these running backs have different styles. Do you think that the styles, complement each other, or do you think they're kind of redundant? In other words, are we getting people who kind of have the same approach to running the football, or are we getting different styles that are complementary that can enhance the variability and unpredictability of our offense?
Yeah, they complement each other 100% when it comes to the top two dogs. Antoine Raymond is a perfect example of a capable power back, and CJ Campbell is a perfect example of a capable hybrid back. I would say receiving back, but you look at his running numbers, 5 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns, that would be disrespectful to him. the only part that's redundant to me is Benjamin and Raymond.
Yeah.
Now, those two, they're very solid, but if CJ goes down, Benjamin's next in line, even though he's not a receiving back.
Right.
And Benjamin and Raymond, to me, they seem very similar. And Samuel Brown, I think we don't have a big enough sample size when it comes to a year-by-year basis, so I can't speak on him. But as long as everyone's healthy, I think the complementary pieces are perfect.
Yeah, I think that's great. And so I guess to end this discussion on the running backs and to end our second segment, if you had to rate the potential of our running game on a scale of 1 to 10 for the 2025 season, where would you rate it?
You know, when it comes to marketing, it's really up there to like it's almost like an 8.5 because Antoine Raymond actually, I think it was Rutgers Rivals or it was a Rutgers football like fan account. They had a like poll for who would be on the cover of EA College Football 25 out of Rutgers, and it was a tie between DT Sheffield and Antoine Raymond. So Antoine's got the marketing value. Now, yeah, I agree, Jason. I mean, like I said, we're going to be a run-first team. I don't think it'll be a running back, like a solo running back like based identity. It'll be like we've been preaching pretty much all offseason, a committee identity. But when you think about sort of rating this running back core, it can be like around an 8, maybe a 7.5. I'll say an 8 because CJ has really good numbers. You know, he might start off a little slow, but that's why him and Raymond are so great and complementary to each other because they run in different ways. So you can't have the same scheme on defense and expect it to work every time.
Yeah, I'm pretty much where you are, 7.5 to 8, maybe a potential of an 8.5. I do think the styles complement each other. But again, Coach Schiano's philosophy, it reminds me of the old school Bill Parcells. You win games by running the football. You win games by punching people in the mouth in the trenches and being more physical than them. And that's what sets up the play action pass. And that's what's going to help Ethan Kaliakmanis find open receivers. And you say DT Sheffield. I call him TV Sheffield because he is going to be a star for Rutgers this season. So great discussion on the running backs. And Gabe alluded in this discussion to the offensive line. And the offensive line is going to be the focus of our show next week because the running game doesn't work unless the offensive line works. And with some of the losses, some of the additions, we're going to discuss in depth how the offensive line is going to function as a unit and hopefully pave the way for a running game that can set up Kaliakmanis and create a dynamic offense for the Scarlet Knights. So with that, that ends our show and our 2 segments. Unless, Gabe, you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Just viewers at home, you have to be patient with the running back core. You're going to get impatient early on, and I understand it, but I'm just reminding you that we're going to run the ball a lot, and people want to see Ethan explode this year on the field. Not literally, of course, because we need him, but when it comes to his performance, people want to see him try to go for 300, 350 yards every day, 4 touchdowns, whatever it may be. But we have to remember the identity. Like Jason says, RU is going to be a run-first team, and Schiano has always been like that, so be patient at home. But that doesn't mean we're not going to throw the football. We have too many good wide receivers to not throw it. So just remain patient. The offense will find itself. The defense is apparently what we're more strong with. I think it's more 50-50, but just remember that, okay? It's a balanced attack, ultimately.
Yeah, and I think Jason O is right when he says someone's going to probably emerge as the number 1 guy. Remember, no one knew who Munangai was before he started making plays. He was a star at Don Bosco Prep, the arch rival to my alma mater, Bergen Catholic. But he did emerge and had a fantastic career. And I think Schiano's going to take the same approach where it's like, the competition continues into the regular season. And what they do is going to determine how much they play. So, great discussion, Gabe, except for Adam Shaw, which, believe me, I'll buy you a ticket to East Lansing if you want to go there and straighten him out. And his parents. But Adam Shaw, in all honesty, we are really just joking around. We hope that
For legal reasons.
we have a no, not for legal reasons, because I'm a nice guy,
Oh, okay.
which you don't seem to recognize.
Well, you
But
know what? Kyle's a Manung guy, so
well, we wish you, Adam Shaw, wish you the best of whatever school you go to in your career and life. And thanks everyone for being here. If you like this show, please hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back here same time next week, 7 o'clock, to talk about the offensive line and more pick updates from Gabe. So thanks everyone. Go Scarlet Knights.
back in the outdoors next week.
Okay.
Having trouble there?